Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by survivingbreastcancer.org. I am Laura Carfang, breast cancer survivor and founder of survivingbreastcancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Huge hugs to you. Thank you for being here. If you are an avid listener, I love your support. Thank you for tuning in week after week and supporting the work that we do. Our podcast is made possible by our friends at survivingbreastcancer.org. And if you're not familiar with survivingbreastcancer.org, check them out, survivingbreastcancer.org/events. They offer over 400 programs virtually a year. Everything ranging from virtual support groups called Thursday Night Thrivers. It's so much fun. Come as you are, no agenda. Available for early stage breast cancer thrivers and survivors, people who are living with metastatic disease, people who have been diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer, plus resources for caregivers. We also offer expressive writing, art expression, movement classes, Pilates, yoga, meditation. Oh my gosh. So check them out. survivingbreastcancer.org/events. Okay, so before we begin, I want to set the scene for today's conversation. Imagine being diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 30. Now imagine going through chemotherapy during the early days of COVID, when hospitals felt unsafe, support systems disappeared overnight, and the world itself felt unpredictable. Today's episode is about what happens when cancer strips you away of your sense of control and what it takes to rebuild it back. And it's about navigating treatments, work, fear, and these impossible decisions we are forced to make, all while realizing that the system that is meant to support you is fragmented, confusing, and overwhelming. My guest today, Samira Daswani, lived this reality firsthand. Diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer at the age of 30, Samira was going through treatment during COVID, while also going through a work transition starting a new job. And what she couldn't find was a clear, compassionate roadmap for patients and caregivers. So she decided to build one. Samira is the founder and CEO of Manta Cares, a platform designed to give cancer patients and their care partners and clinicians something many of us never receive: clarity, agency, and a sense of direction during the chaos. In today's conversation, we talk about chemo during COVID, hormone therapy decisions, losing and reclaiming control, and how lived experiences can drive real innovation in cancer care. Welcome to the conversation.
I'm Samira. I'm a bioengineer by background, went to school in your neck of the woods, and then worked in the East Coast, moved to the West Coast for grad school. Pretty much 8 months after graduating, ended up getting diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer. Formal diagnosis was January 10th of 2020. I had one chemo cycle pre-COVID and then everything else under the COVID lockdown.
Oh my goodness. So you're dealing with not just a cancer diagnosis, but then also like the horrific experiences we all went through for COVID as well. What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, the funny part of the story is I had just started a new job, and the new job I had started was in the medical diagnostic space. And this is like within weeks of diagnosis. And the company I joined had built a rapid PCR device that we were supposed to be testing for STDs, so women's health. And within like weeks, we were one of the first few companies that ended up pivoting to COVID. And CEO he tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You need to lead our COVID program." And I'm like, "I have chemo starting next week." And he's like, "Well, you need to lead the COVID program." So it was kind of a funny headspace for me because COVID was starting to happen. The US hadn't really started taking it seriously in January. So we were mostly working outside of the US. I was still traveling. The first cycle of chemo, I was still in the office because lockdown had just started, but we had the exception because we were exempt from it. So I was actually going into the office and we had live virus because we were a diagnostic company, right? So we had live virus on site. And it was just one of those moments in life. You're like, man, I'm not sure cancer's going to kill me. I think COVID might kill me.
My goodness. And so just like even navigating a new job and being diagnosed, how did you tell your employer or work with like HR?
Good question. I don't think I've been asked that before. I remember calling up a mentor of mine, going for lunch. and telling him, or asking him rather, whether I should tell the company. Because it was literally like I had just joined. Like, this was not like I had joined. Like, I think I joined and within 10 days got diagnosed. Like, it was just one of those moments you're like, oh shit.
Well, it's so hard too, right? Because you're like, you want to show a good job. You're excited about the new opportunity. You really want to put your best foot forward. And, no one can plan for a cancer diagnosis. So it's not like you lead with that in like your interviews of like, oh, I'm being tested for this stuff. And at the same time, trying to make sure that we have health insurance in this country, which is such a critical part. So
And yes, and yes, and yes. Absolutely. You completely nailed it. All of that was going through my head. This mentor of mine, though, was like, you need to tell people. And he's like, you need to tell people because I remember him saying this and I was like, I don't know if you're right. He goes, the circles you run in will show up for you when you tell them. It's like, your job can't be true. But he honestly couldn't be more right. I remember telling my CEO who I should report to, and the very first thing he did was like set up 2 second opinions for me. And then I had a meeting with the chair of the board, happy to tell him. Turns out that there was a cancer patient on the board who then calls me and makes sure I get the right setup in the system I'm part of, right? So it was just one of those things where you hear all these stories of this going bad. And I think I got very lucky that did happen. It was the flip.
yes.
So I remember feeling very, very grateful that these people I don't know, I haven't really met, I don't have a relationship with, I am brand new, kind of showed up. So I think I was more fortunate than not.
That's really great to hear. Yeah. You hear some of the success stories too, right? So it's very scary. It takes a lot of courage to share, especially I feel like there's generational shifts of talking about your own personal health circumstances. And now in an age of social media, like I remember like pressing the button on social media, like, okay, am I going to post this? And am I posting this just to my friends, my close friends? Is it for everybody? Is it public? And also trying to think longer term. I need the help and support now for people to come out of the woodwork and help me. But what are the potential negative ramifications I'm not thinking about if I need to switch jobs or careers? I know no one will ever say this when they're going through HR, but people Google you and information is out there.
For sure. Definitely, I've gone through this very, very similar set of thinking. I was very private, actually. The first 3 years when I was actually in treatment, there was no social media stuff for me.
Right.
Me disclosing it to my employers was like plenty. And I was like, yeah, no more than that. I think since then, though, of course, it's changed, but it's
a big decision, and everyone's decision is super personal when they're ready to talk about it. My husband is so funny. He helped me normalize it. So, you lose your hair. I lost my eyebrows. Like I lost my eyelashes, right? I'm sure you did too. Like we looked kind of funny, but I was like, yeah, I still want to go on a date. Like, can we still go out to eat and get food? I just remember him turning to like everyone around the table in the restaurants. Like, you're in Boston, everything's like crowded. But I'm like, he would just be like, oh, she's got chemo. Like, she's fine though. But like, this is what we're doing. And he would just like tell people. So they would, one, stop looking and thinking I'm like weird, right? Because they're all talking. He would just normalize it. Or we'll be walking through the grocery store and like he'll be picking up like the broccoli or like the cucumber or something and be like, oh yeah, we're like doing smoothies at home and she's got cancer. Like, he would just tell everybody. So you had chemo. What other types of treatment did you go through for your stage 2B breast cancer?
A neoadjuvant chemo, and then a lumpectomy, radiation. I had a year of Herceptin because I had HER2-positive disease. And then I'm supposed to be on 10 years of hormone therapy, which I, after a bit, was like, I'm good. Thank you very much. So after trying it for a while, I decided that wasn't for me.
Were you on tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors?
Tamoxifen, because I very promptly declined the use of aromatase inhibitors because I imagine like you was premenopausal. So for us to be on an AI, you need to be on an ovarian suppressor, which
Yes.
I didn't want.
How many stories do we hear about this, like side effects of these drugs? And I remember the first time hearing that you have to be on some of these endocrine therapies for 5 to 10 years. And I was like, wait, okay, chemotherapy, like I'm getting through like 6 rounds, 6 months. Okay, like radiation, it's like six weeks, depending on like what your cycles are and the dosage. But there was always like light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, with an early stage diagnosis. And then they're like, now you're going to be on endocrine therapy and you're going to take this pill for like the next decade. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing next year. And now I have to have this pill that's a constant reminder of what I've gone through. And then dealing with all of the side effects too. They're very challenging and to some extent unmanageable. Were you dealing with, I know for me, I was dealing with hot flashes and joint pain, weight gain, like all Nothing pretty, nothing sexy.
Yes to all the above. I definitely remember thinking in a very similar way. I think it was actually one of the harder decisions. It was probably one of the hardest decisions in a weird way. Because I remember the doc telling me the 5 to 10 years, and I was like, no effing way.
Mhm.
I just remember being like, no, not doing it. And she was like, hello, excuse me, guidelines. And I'm like, no, I understand guidelines. I've done my research. I know exactly what the trade-off is. Thank you very much. And no. And it was like 5 meetings after that of her trying to convince me I should at least try it. And it was just everything you said is true. I think the side effects are brutal. And I think it's particularly bad for premenopausal women, right? Because you end up you're basically dealing with everything menopause and dealing with everything drug related. Double whammy. And I think for postmenopausal women, the decision making is very different though. Right? It's so different if you are postmenopausal because you're already kind of there on the menopausal side effects. So now you're just stacking on the kind of delta effect. I was problematic child is probably a good way to put it.
Right. So you did try it for a period of time before deciding to go off of it?
I did. I tried tamoxifen, tracked everything. So I tracked all of my symptoms, knew what the side effects are. I played with dosing. I played with time of taking it. I played with how often to think about the symptoms and whether or not some symptoms would peter off. And for me, the trade-off was I used to get this really, really bad joint pain in my fingers. And that was kind of the kicker for me because it would prevent me from working.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back a little bit because I was like, I need my fingers to work. I just can't get over that symptom. And the trade-offs for me, because I had the outcomes I had earlier on, just the math didn't work for me. So I remember I talk about this to patients all the time. I'm like, the way to think about this is think of it like a financial portfolio. And you have a risk meter, right? You basically you can choose how conservative you want to be and how much aggressive risk you want to take on. And the risk here you're taking on is the risk of recurrence. Right. So as long as you are comfortable with taking on the risk of recurrence, any decision is fine, but you need to recognize that you are taking on some degree of risk. And for me, when I ran through the math for myself, it just didn't make sense eventually.
Yeah, being comfortable with the decision-making process, understanding where you are in your life, what your priorities are. And that's what's really empowering, I would say, is having that choice and having those conversations. Talking to your doctor, it sounds like she convinced you to try and that you were like, okay, I'm really giving this my all, whether I want to try and taking the medicine in the morning or is it better if I take it before I go to bed and all of these things. I think I was miserable. I just got off of hormonal therapy after 8 years. And I think I was miserable for 8 years. And my poor husband just had to deal with me complaining for 8 years. And it just became a way of life. And now I'm not complaining as much. It's kind of nice.
Were you on tamoxifen as well or something else?
No. So I started actually on aromatase inhibitors with the Lupron shot for 5 years. And then that was successful. And I wasn't necessarily wanting or needing to change, but the recommendation was to switch to tamoxifen for another few years because of the osteopenia that I was getting. So, at least with tamoxifen, you are blocking the estrogen from the breast cancer cells, but not entirely the estrogen that can still go to your bones and other places to kind of help support bone health, heart health, all of the other things, because estrogen is actually pretty important for your body, believe it or not.
I have done my deep dive here.
Yes. So, okay, you get through treatment and you're still at your job, or what happens during this period of COVID, leading this COVID team, managing a cancer diagnosis?
I worked throughout. I don't think I took any time off. I think I took maybe a day off post-surgery, but I worked through the whole thing.
The day off, just one day post-surgery?
One day post-surgery. COVID was nuts. This company, if you ever flew through California, the West Coast during that period, our test was in the background. Mm-hmm. So I was taking product to the FDA. So it was this weird time of you're doing something that's super meaningful, not cancer related. I'm dealing with the cancer stuff. My family, honestly, couldn't have done it without them. Yeah. They kind of held the fort down so that I could work. And work for me during that period was honestly kind of essential because it distracted me. If work was not there, I think the experience would probably unwound me more. I did end up in the hospital a couple of times because I had neutropenic fever, and being admitted during COVID is not a particularly fun experience at all. And it was the only time that I was like, oh shit, I may not get through this. That was the one time that I was like, I may not come home. It's a little scary. So there were definitely scary moments, but for the most part, work was like a distraction.
Yeah. That could be healthy as well. Just having something else to focus on, trying to normalize the uncertainty, normalize the disruption that cancer has caused. And so that's great. Yeah, I worked as well. I took some time off after my surgery, and then I took some time off around radiation because I was really struggling with the fatigue. But yeah, I worked all through my chemo treatments, and I think that was helpful just to like have something else to focus on that wasn't cancer. So for anyone who's listening to and is looking for like, how do I get through this? Having a distraction, I would say, is definitely helpful. Another fun fact that I don't know if people know this about me, but William and I never had a TV in the house. And then when I got diagnosed with cancer, we got a TV. And he was like, we just need humor. We need movies. We're going to like sign up with for like Netflix and Hulu and like all the things. Right. And so I think also was his like way of like, I also need ESPN and all the sports. Cancer, we just knew we were going to spend some time like on the couch, lying down, like I'll be like napping under blankets and we just could watch movies. And so that was like a really nice thing that we ended up doing. But to think like we had this whole lifestyle without a television and then cancer was like, oh, let's go out and get a TV. Fun facts over here.
I totally get it. That's actually one of the things I tell people all the time when they call me. Netflix, get a library card.
Yes.
Whatever gets you joy in terms of like screen time, get that. It really is one of the like best ways to like spend a day that you're feeling completely shit in and watch a show.
And I don't know about you, but even like trying to go to like my chemotherapy sessions, like sometimes you're there for like multiple hours, right? Like I remember like closing out the infusion center one day and I was like, this is wild. Like I'm the last patient here. Like I used to do this at bars. Now I'm doing this like at the infusion center. Like my life is taken a 180. But I used to like mentally think about it almost as like my spa day. Like I know that sounds like weird, but like this is my time to go sit in like a moderately comfy chair, right? Like the nurses are doting on you. Like, people are coming around with a little food cart. Like, do you want some food? I had my like iPad. I was watching my movies. Like it was my escape to like, no one bother me right now. I am like hooked up to this IV. So the things that we do, like the mental games we play just to get through it.
It's totally true. I think I eventually got that because I had Herceptin for a year. So I was in the infusion ward quite a bit. I think I had like 18 infusion cycles or something nuts. So I've definitely closed down the infusion center, been the first patient in, been there on Christmas Eve, been there on Thanksgiving Day. Like, and you're just like, I was one of the frequent flyers, I guess. I think I started out the board member I was telling you about that had cancer. He had this rare form of cancer and he had been in treatment for the better part of like 7-8 years or something. So when he found out that I was going through treatment, he calls me and he goes, the way to think about infusions is imagine you're going to an appointment, like a work meeting. Prepare for it, schedule it, carry your laptop. Think of it as if you're in a work meeting. Just because I'm a workaholic, it was very appropriate for me to think through that, which is where I started. And then eventually I think I got to what you're describing, which was it was my alone time. And I would pre-select the movie, pre-select the book. And then I had a couple of like allergic reactions. So eventually what started happening was they would just give me a Benadryl shot. Show up, they'd give me Benadryl, I'd watch a movie, go to sleep, and then many, many, many hours later wake up. It was actually really nice.
Hypophosphatemia is often under-recognized, but the downstream consequences such as osteomalacia, fractures, and functional decline can be substantial. To our listeners, the single most important actionable message today is to check aphosphate. It's not on the typical chem panel, so you have to order it when the story fits.
I know, absolutely. Scheduled sleep time, scheduled nap times like we used to have in like kindergarten and preschool. Like, okay, nap time now. Excellent. So what prompted your decision to kind of like, I don't want to say pivot because I feel like it's an extension of the work that you've already been doing, staying in like the medical field, but you decided to launch Manta Cares. Tell me about the impetus behind that. When did that start percolating for you?
So the second cycle of chemo, so neoadjuvant chemo for me, so second cycle, I came back and couldn't sleep. I had some pretty bad insomnia. And it was one of those cycles where like I had just ended up in the ER, had come back out. Like it was just one of those moments of the experience that was particularly, it like really unwound my sense of control. It was this moment of like, yeah, I have no control over my life anymore. But over really anything, right? Like there's so much that changes. Like 1 minute you're feeling fine, 10 minutes later you're throwing up, 10 minutes later you're like passing out on the couch, 10 minutes later you're like, oh, now I have all this energy and I can't sleep. And you're like, what do you do?
Right.
And I remember feeling this like sense of loss, almost of an identity, and need to regain it. My family's passed out. It's like 2 a.m. and I'm kind of thinking through how do I regain control? And I'd worked in oncology 2 times before me being diagnosed. And was relatively familiar with the space, was relatively familiar with like tools out there and what patients have access to. And I remember thinking that like we really don't have the right tools on the patient side to navigate what's going on. Everything has been designed for the system. It's not really been designed for you. And at that moment in time, I was like, I need a tool to like capture what's going on. I need a tool to track my symptoms, to keep track of these like hundreds of appointments that are going on. There's so much information coming my way. We have to make decisions kind of all the time. And there really isn't anything that allows me to have some foresight. So I pretty much designed a planner for myself that night. And I'm a nerd, so I've like read all these like papers at this point and like gone kind of down the rabbit hole and designed this product initially entirely for myself. It was not meant for anybody else, and sent it to the printer who was printing our like materials for the device that was going out into the world. She was the only one open because everything is shut down, right? And so I sent her an email and I'm like, hey, can you like print this for me? And she looks at it and she's like, wait, you're dealing with cancer right now? I was like, yeah. She goes, Samira, I'm going to print you a bunch, give them away. This will help other people. So she sends me a batch and I happen to give them away. And the first nonprofit called Cancer Care Point is driving around town handing out these warm hats. And this woman comes to my garage because it's again COVID, right? And it's like summer, so it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And this woman's giving me a warm woolen hat. And I'm like, I look at this thing and I started crying because I was like, shit, how did you know that I was going to be cold, freezing cold in 100 degrees Fahrenheit because I've lost all my hair and I am really cold all the time? It would never have occurred to me to go buy a woolen hat. So she gives me this woolen hat and I'm like, I am indebted. I don't know what to give you. So I gave her one of these planners. And she became one of our first buyers. So she calls me up later and goes, hey, can I buy a batch? Because we showed it to the patients and they love it. Can we start giving it away? So that was sort of initially where our paper product started. And this was all nights and weekends for a long time. And eventually we helped thousands of patients across the country and people were like, can you please make this digital? And
yes,
that became kind of the genesis of Manta Cares.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit more about this planner. So it's, I know I have a copy as well, but just for like our listeners, you can't like visually see it either. So it's kind of like a journal option too, where it's like you can kind of write down your symptoms. It's beautifully designed with, check boxes and kind of fill in the blank so people know exactly like what the medications are and the time of day and instructions to like really help the patient. Because sometimes we don't know what to ask or we don't know like what we don't know. And so you've really put together almost that roadmap for the patient through this paper form. And then tell me a little bit more about the digital option.
So the way I describe the cancer experience is I think of it like being on a treacherous hike. The patient is kind of dropped in, mountain trail, bluff hike, you really don't know.
I really like hiking. So I love treacherous hiking. So like, this is my cancer experience. I love it. Okay, keep going.
And if you're lucky, like you are, Laura, and like I probably was or am, you have someone with you, right? You have a family member, a friend, someone who's with you on this hike. But the difference, I think, between a wonderful hike and the cancer experience is on the cancer hike, you don't have access to a map. So you don't really know where you are. You don't really know what's going to come. You don't know what the next steps are. You don't know when the decision points are going to be. You also don't have the right tools. No one's really told you need to be in hiking shoes and carry a rain jacket because it might rain. No one's really given you that foresight. So you're kind of there, a little bit stranded, trying to hike your way out of this forest without having the appropriate gear, having a guide, or having a map. And that effectively is what we've built at Manta, both digitally and in paper. Very, very disease specific. So we don't have a kind of general map for breast cancer. It's specific to the type of breast cancer you have. Because early stage hormone positive breast cancer looks and feels very different than early stage triple positive or early stage triple negative or metastatic breast cancer. Those experiences are actually fundamentally different. And we need these maps to be personalized to the experience we're about to embark on. That's what we've done. They look and feel like subway maps. We spent a lot of time designing the modality with it. Everything we do has been built by patients and backed by oncologists. We have done, I don't even know, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of like patient feedback. It's kind of a constant engine on our side. So pretty much everything that we are showing the patients has been blessed by both a patient and an oncologist. And that's what it's available for free. We're live in breast cancer and lung cancer right now on the digital side. The paper product you can buy, and if you don't want to buy it, just ping us and we'll send you a free copy. That one, it doesn't matter what type of cancer you have. That one's agnostic. It's meant for both the family member and the patient. And we are helping thousands across the country.
Amazing work that you're doing. And I love seeing kind of like the growth of, I had insomnia and I needed a planner and I needed to organize myself, right? Taking some level of control amongst the chaos. And then really being able to launch into this full-blown digital curated cancer specific, subtype specific platform. Congratulations to you. I always tell people like, I didn't wake up to go to school for this. So like, how do you feel that like you've fallen into this, founder CEO role that you're in today?
It's a good question. I've always been on the digital health side, so some part of it feels fairly natural. And I'm a bioengineer and designer, so some parts of the work I do today feel kind of like it was meant to be in a weird sort of way. Some other part of me feels like, I don't know how to describe it. It's different than the other jobs I've had. So for example, when we had this COVID test, we're helping people get tested in like 20 minutes on a PCR test, right? So it's a moment of like, oh my God, my work is helping someone. In that experience, it's like, oh yay, everything is like positive. With Manta, everything feels a little bittersweet for me. Because when we help someone, it means that they're dealing with one of the hardest chapters of their life. And every time we see someone reach out to us and give us some feedback, like usually very positive feedback about how the team has helped them or the platform has helped them, it's always this moment of like, cute, and my heart's broken.
Yeah.
That the experience is so fundamentally broken that a paper planner is a thing that gets you through a day. Like it's that part of it like really, really gets me.
Yeah. I always feel, to some extent too, like, I hate that we're meeting under these circumstances, right? Like people are coming and they're grateful and we're helping. And, to some extent, like you and I are like veterans, right? Like we've been through this, we can help and we can coach. And granted, since our diagnosis, treatments have continued to evolve and change and get better, which is amazing. I feel kind of like an archaic person who like, going through my treatment in 2017, I'm like, oh, they don't even do that anymore. I was like, okay, that's great that they don't do that anymore. Too bad I still have to suffer all these side effects of what I was given. But the fact that it's so pervasive that people are being diagnosed with cancer. And even though I think some of the rates for breast cancer specifically are going down, they're not for young women and breast cancer. And so having these tools, understanding and meeting the patients where they are in life, helping them navigate these decisions, just like you were saying, like, do I want to stay on these hormone suppressants? Like, am I trying to like plan a family? What's important to me? Like, where am I at in my life? These are really fundamental questions that are going to be very different for someone who's in their 20s or 30s versus someone who is postmenopausal.
Absolutely. And I think they're also different based on where you are, right? Manta supports people across 48 states today, and we've had the fortune of meeting people from Tennessee and Kentucky and rural California and San Francisco. And the experiences are actually very different, right? Because access to care is different. Your family life is different. Your religious underpinnings are different. Your digital literacy is different. The ability for you to advocate for yourself, given your personal priorities, is just, our lives are actually very different from one another. And the system is really not built to reflect that.
No. We're starting to break that though. We're starting to see a little bit more personalization, hopefully. I know, watch out world, but yeah, I think that's hopefully starting to shift, right? It's no longer this one size fit all, or, everyone just gets the same like textbook answers. So keep up the advocacy and the great work that you're doing. Anything we haven't talked about that you want to share with our listeners? I think I'm dying to know, like, what's next for you? Like, what's next for Manta Cares?
We are expanding access in lung cancer and breast cancer right now. We are launching our mobile app, so that'll be ready soon, actually, within a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
iOS devices. We also have our AI tool up and running. So if you come into our platform right now and set up an account, you will see that you have an AI companion that helps you navigate the full map. So you can ask it and trained on our content, as well as sort of is under the review of our oncologists that work with us across the country. So far, people who are using it love it, and all the feedback we've gotten has been great. So that one is also launching for us. So we have a couple of launches coming out in the next quarter, which is exciting.
Amazing. I love it. Samira, thank you so much for sharing your personal story and how you have really embraced these gaps that unfortunately you had to experience firsthand in order to create something that is really going to enhance how people navigate and approach, a diagnosis, not just in breast cancer, but in all cancers. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast is from personal experiences and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. If you are looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out. My email is laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Our show is made possible by our nonprofit, survivingbreastcancer.org, and by our incredible donors like yourself. You can hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org to sign up for our mailing list, make a donation, and explore the 400 plus programs we offer each year at survivingbreastcancer.org/events. Until next time, keep on thriving.